Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up and run a Flask application for Windows. Now, in order to use Flask, you have to have the latest version of Python installed on your machine. So if you don't have Python installed, please be sure to install Python first before you attempt the installation of Flask. Also, you want to make sure you're using a good text editor. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, but you can also use Atom or Sublime. They'll work just fine. So the very first step that we want to take in setting up our Flask application is creating a directory. I've created the directory named Flask_app. Once you have the directory created, the next step you want to do is launch your terminal. The next thing we want to do is create a virtual environment. And the way that we're going to create this virtual environment is by typing in a few commands here in the terminal. The first command is going to be pip install virtual env, and then we'll press enter. Okay. After the virtual env has installed, the next thing we want to do is type in the command virtual env space env and press enter. Finally, in order to activate the virtual environment, we want to type in the command env/scripts/activate. And what this is doing is activating our virtual environment. And the way that we can tell our virtual environment is activated is on the far left of the terminal window. We're going to see a parentheses with env within it. That lets us know that our virtual environment is activated. Okay, so now it is time for us to set up our Flask app. The next command we want to type in our terminal is pip install flask with a capital F and press enter. And what this is doing is installing our Flask application into our virtual environment. After we have Flask installed, we can go ahead and close out our terminal. So the next thing we want to do is create a file within our directory named app.py. And within app.py, we want to bring in the Flask library. And the way that we bring in the Flask library is by typing in from Flask, import Flask. This Flask represents the library and this represents the class. The next thing that we want to do is set up our app. The next thing we want to do is create a variable with our app with the class of Flask. And at the very bottom, we also want to make sure that we include this syntax to let Python know that this is the name of the file that we'll be running. So what this is saying is that if we have the name equals main, then we want app.run debug to be true. So now the next steps that we want to do in order to set up our Flask application is create our route. And the way that we'll create our route is going with the @ symbol, app.route/. And what this represents is our initial route. If we were setting up multiple routes, we would have /user1/activate, but because we're just setting up the app, we're just going to keep it as the regular. We're going to keep it as our home route of just /. And then we want to create a function, and we want to make sure our function is descriptive, because what this is going to do is let the app know what to do once this function is called. So the name of this function is going to be index, and within the index function, we want to return a simple hello world. Okay, so now that we have this line of code typed into our app.py, the next step in order to launch our Flask application is to run this code. Because I'm in Visual Studio Code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the app.py file, click on it, right click on it, and click on run code. And if all goes well, we're going to see this URL launched in our terminal. So what we want to do is click to launch this link. And once we launch that link, we see that we have the hello world launched on this particular URL. So there you go. We have a simple Flask application up and running. From here, you can do a lot of other things that we'll talk about in upcoming videos. I hope you found this video informative. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, and if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.